How to plus Q&A event. I've got to change that actually. These aren't how to plus Q&As. These are real world stories. They are success stories that we visit on a Friday. And I always love them. They're probably my favorite part of the week, to be perfectly honest. And today I have Laura Feavearyear here from Creative Jam, and she owns a boutique design agency. And we're going to be talking about her business and how she's become so successful, because you are successful. I know that most Kiwis are just too humble to say so, but I'm just going to point it out for you. So here we are again on Digital Boost. If you are watching with us online on one of our social, obviously online, but on one of our social media channels, you can use the comment section or the chat function or the Q&A function, depending on what platform you're streaming with us on. That would be the way to communicate with us today. If you have any questions, queries, or comments ever that you want to talk to us at Digital Boost about, please reach out to us. Contact support at digitalboost.business.govt.nz. And as we feature our small business success stories on Friday, we also allow you to put your advertisements up on our Facebook community page. It's called Digital Boost Community, and you can put on any kind of promos that you have going for the weekend or that you're currently running on a Friday. So do drop them up there so the whole community can check out what you have to offer and just use our platform to expand your reach. So welcome, Laura. Thank you so much for joining me.
Morena. Good morning.
Anamari. I have been looking forward to this all week, as I mentioned, because I think you're an amazing designer. The concepts that you've come up with are just, they're so fresh. They're beautiful and fresh. And so I myself dabble in the arts. And when you see somebody's work that inspires you, you get excited. So that's me today.
Oh, wonderful. No, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here as well. It's very humbling to be able to talk to other business owners in New Zealand, because I think we just have such a really awesome array of really awesome creative ideas people here, and it just goes back to that whole number 8 wire thing that's been around for generations with Kiwis. So it's awesome.
Wait, what is it? Hold on, because I've always heard duct tape in a shed. Now, what's the number 8 wire thing? I don't know.
Oh, the number 8 wire, essentially, it comes from the farming kind of culture of, essentially you could do anything with a number 8 wire, and that's the wire that goes around like on fencing and things like that. So it's something that's synonymous with Kiwis, and whenever you hear somebody who's got a really ingenious idea, you just say, oh, it's the number 8 wire culture.
Oh my gosh, I'm taking that. I'm taking that with me today. That's my new saying now. Awesome. So I'm going to actually open up the chats because I want people to be able to communicate with us. And while I do that, I wanted for you to share with us how you got started. We're going to get into some of the other aspects of your business, but let's start out of how did Creative Jam come about, and what inspired you, and a little bit about your story there.
Awesome. Okay, where to start? Well, we'll start right from the beginning. I was born with quite a rare eye condition called coloboma, and it's not genetic in any way. I just got lucky, and I'm short-sighted. But I've always had a creative streak. Won my first colouring competition at the age of 4, which I was very proud of, and it's just always been in me. I had a friend of mine ask me once, how did you know this is what you wanted to do? And for me, there's never been any question. This is my calling. This is my passion. So I did a bit of travel overseas when I was younger, and then came back and decided that I wanted to go into university and study design and advertising. And I came out of the studying advertising, and it was the recession. So I decided, okay, well, I'll go back and do a bit more study. And that's where I started my love for graphic design. Once I finished uni, I came out and was like, right, I'm ready to go and get a job. We can do this. I've got good skills. I've got good marks for my degree, and came across a lot of barriers. And this is something that I think anyone with a disability can relate to. The misunderstanding of what we can actually do from an employer's perspective is quite a tricky thing for people to grasp. So I found it really difficult to get jobs. But lucky for me, my dad has been in business his whole life, and he taught me a lot growing up. And so I said, I want to start my own business. And that's been in many different forms over the years. I've also worked for large companies. Essentially, when I started my business for the first time, I used it as an opportunity to get clients. My first big client was Ube Organic. You've probably seen all their frozen berries and ice cream in the supermarkets. I used that as a springboard to actually show employers that I could work, that I could do the work, and this is my portfolio, and my disability doesn't even come into it. And so I started working for large companies, but I always had my own clients on the side. And I worked a number of years in different companies. And then I had my son and decided that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a mum, but I also wanted to continue my career. And so that was when Creative Jam was born a couple of years ago. And since then, I have just concentrated my love for packaging and food brands, and that's Creative Jam. So Creative Jam is an FMCG boutique design agency. We specialize in food and beverage and beauty products and anything that can go into retail, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got some big names behind your belt, which is pretty cool. Now, you've talked about some of your challenges, I guess, like getting work in the beginning and things like that, and some great networking. It's always great when your family comes into play.
Oh, yes, I'm very lucky to have the family I do. They've been very supportive.
So wonderful to hear. Big shout out to your dad as well for just showing you the ropes of business, which is fantastic. Didn't gender kind of stereotype. Everybody can learn. It's so great. So as far as starting up Creative Jam, let's talk about possibly some of the challenges that you had starting your business now instead of starting your career. And then let's move into the successes, which is my favorite.
Sure. Okay. So some of the challenges that I had starting was I needed to create a whole new website, then also learn how to communicate with multiple clients, because it's sort of snowballed. It's become very successful quite quickly. And so I needed to have some tools to actually deal with the influx of new work. And also just in general, learning social media is a big one as well. Like most people think that if you're creative, then, you must know social media, but that's a huge beast. It's a huge beast. And also accounting and learning the financial side of things and the money in and the money out. So just like the challenges are much the same as any other business, really. How to get started, where to get started, where to spend, where to invest the money and online, because 99% of my clients come from a digital, I come from online. So how do I showcase my work really nicely? What platform do I use? Do I get a web developer? Do I, that kind of thing. But I'd say the biggest challenge for me from an accessibility, how do I talk to clients, especially in a pandemic kind of era, because I can't drive, my eyesight, I can't get my license. So how do I actually present myself really well to clients? How do I talk to them? How do I see them? So that was obviously investing in Zoom and working out how to go about that. So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest challenges for me, is just getting to see the clients.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's not unlike a lot of people who work rurally or work, but yeah, I mean, not being able to drive is like in some places, depending on where you live or where your clients are based, can be a real hurdle to overcome. But I guess we're so lucky these days that because there has been such a transfer to online meetings, it is so common now to be able to meet with folks online. We see it as almost normal. I actually had a meeting with somebody the other week, and it was a video meeting, and the person didn't turn on their video. And so I wasn't sure if they were there, and I was just sitting there just waiting, and they were like, hello? And I was like, hello? And then like they said something else, and I was like, oh, hello. And they were like, hello. And then I said, Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just because I'm so used to people turning on their cameras. It
Mm,
was so unusual to have a conversation that wasn't with video. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Because we just
yeah.
use it so much.
You do,
Um,
yeah. And I think there's it's not an exact science, as I was saying before we jumped on the live, is that I would hazard a guess that, say, everybody that uses online meetings at the moment probably wastes about an hour a week just figuring out to get Zoom to work properly.
There's always you're
Mm,
muted, you're muted.
yeah,
We've got a real offender in our team that always is muted when they come on. It's quite funny.
yeah.
So yeah, so that is definitely a hurdle there that you've kind of overcome and a challenge that you faced. You talked about finances and when to spend and when not to spend. Did you actually get a grant, or did you get a loan for your business, or did you build it organically?
I built it organically. I had a little family help to start with, just to get me going in that. I've, as I said, throughout my career, I've had my own clients on the side of my day job. So I've always just kind of kept all that there for the time being that I knew that I would like to go and freelance for full time. So I basically worked my ASS off
Yeah.
to make sure that I had a nice buffer when I started.
Yeah,
But
that's
the side of the thing which has um, not been a confident side of things for me is actually dealing with all of GST and that kind of a thing. So having someone in my family that knew all of that has been really beneficial, because he's taught me how to use MyOb and that kind. But I think that's quite a big stigma for a lot of people when they start a business, is just the massive section of it that is dealing with the money in, the money out scenario. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I think finance is one of the hardest aspects of small business that most people find, because they get in
Mm,
for a certain passion. Some people are in the financial industry and they're
yeah.
lucky, I guess, in that respect. But many people are not. And so they've got in because they're really great. They're creative, or, they've got a service that they like to do, but they didn't grow up. We don't learn finance in school. That's one
No.
thing we don't learn. So none of us have come out of school with this foundation of finance.
Mm,
So yeah, I totally hear you on that. So let's move into some of the successes that you've had, because I get like a little bit of a kick out of some of the people you've worked with, but it doesn't have to be about who you've worked with or
yeah.
things you've done financially in your career. It could be just things that were milestones for you. So we'd
Yeah,
love to hear
sure.
about what some of those are.
Well, for me, doing this every single day is a success in my eyes, because I am somebody, people go, oh, you're nearly blind, but how can you do design work? And so every day I'm, proving to the world, but also proving to myself that what I'm doing is what I want to do and following my passion. So that is the biggest success for me. Every single day that I get to work on these really awesome clients, and some of the things that I can think about, like Dose & Co is probably the one I'm most well known for. But there's other ones like Dr. Feelgood Ice Blocks, which I was and I won a Best Award for, which is a Best Award is
Amazing. First up,
yeah.
the branding is amazing. It's beautiful. It's
Oh, thank you.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Love it.
And just working with clients overseas, it's really neat when you get somebody and they're like, "Oh, I heard about your design company, and I live in the UK," and I'm like, "Me? What do you mean, just me?" Which is really awesome. I find it all just super cool to live the life that I really dreamed of, and every time it gets a little bit better, I'm like, I didn't realize it would go this way. And it just shows, if you just got to keep on moving. It's taken me 11 years to get here, 11 years, and only in the last year and a half have I really felt like I'm where I want to be.
Yeah.
So, it does take time, but it's so worth it when you get here. It really is. Yeah.
I'm so inspired. Okay. So let's move into the digital tools you use, and you talked about your website and getting your website built and all that kind of stuff. And as we are talking about GAD and Global Accessibility Awareness Day and digital accessibility, I'm interested to hear, your story as well, and how that came into play with your development of your site, or even just the things that you considered in starting up your business digitally.
Yeah, sure.
Or in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the biggest tool that I use is Trello. Trello is, I couldn't live with my life without Trello, basically. If you've not heard of Trello, it is the most wonderful organization tool. Uses the Kanban method, which is a Japanese thing of essentially having columns of, things that are new, things that are to do, things to sign off, and things that are done, and you can move them in places. So all of the new jobs go in there. I have a couple of freelancers who work with me now. They're awesome. And so they are all on the same board. We can talk to each other using Trello, and it works the same as Facebook. So you can just @ their name and then send them a message, and they can answer it back, and you can share images, and we can upload files. And it is the most wonderful organization tool that I have. And the really good thing about Trello is it's really easy for me to read. I struggle with really small detail from far away, and Trello is, the colors and everything like that are quite simple and basic, so I can follow the text and everything like that. Can't guarantee I won't type terribly though. That's not anything to do with my disability. That's just me. Yeah, but that's probably the biggest tool that I use for my business.
I want to ask you about Trello. Wait, hold up.
Yeah.
Do you use the free version, or do you use a paid version?
I use a paid version, and I do that because it means I can share really large files, and design files can be massive. Yeah. So it means that I can share up to sort of, I think it's 25 megabyte files, which is pretty large. Anything larger than that, we use WeTransfer.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm actually going to make a little list so I can drop it in the chats on the on the thing, because WeTransfer is a great, it's almost like a Dropbox.
It is essentially, and it's really good because you can pop a link into an email. So WeTransfer, you go to the website, it's free to use. And you can just upload, if it's a really large file, like say it's quite a large photograph, or it's a bunch of files together in a zip file, you can just upload it. They'll give you a little link you can copy, and you can stick that straight into an email to send to somebody. And then also it will also notify you in your email when they've downloaded it and when that download is about to expire. So if your client or somebody you've sent it to hasn't downloaded it, WeTransfer will go, hey, they haven't downloaded this yet. So you can check in on it. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that sounds great. Now with your website, who do you use for your website?
I've used WordPress and Elementor, and I did have a web company help me do that. I came up with all the design, and then they put it together for me. I know how to use WordPress, but it's more of a time thing, and I truly believe in using people that know what they're really good at to do the thing. So I got them to design my website. Yeah,
totally.
I know how to use it now. So
yeah, like you're a designer, so you're really good at design, and like we can all do bits and pieces of design, but if you really want to get it done really well, like you'd go to a designer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I appreciate that. So WordPress is a great site because it integrates with so many different things, and you can scale it, and you can add lots of things. And one of the things that I love about your website is you've got that video right when you pull the page. Have you kind of optimized that so that people who come on that do have accessibility, they can read the text? Like, did you think about the text colors that you picked, and like consider folks who have visual impairments like yourself when you built your site?
There's alt text all the way through my website, so every image has a description, because I know that's people can read that, which is really cool. And the video itself, you can expand it, so you can click on that video so that it's full screen, so people can watch that as well. I didn't actually put text down the bottom. I just thought I will do that though. That's one thing I need to do for people that have hearing impairments. should really do
Yeah.
that. Mm.
Yeah, wonderful. Look, hey, I think there's always more ways we can optimize and improve our websites in general. So, like we never have the perfect website, do we? We're always changing.
No. And I can tell you right now, being a designer, I constantly doing your own branding is one of the most difficult things. It's easy to do other people's because it's like from the outside, you can understand what they're saying and all that. But if you're a designer and you're doing your own brand, you're constantly changing it because you're like, oh, I don't like it anymore.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. So with your website, let's go back. Do I want to stay on the website? I kind of do. I want to find out like what integrations you use on your website. Do you use like a booking calendar, or do you use like Xero? Does it integrate? Do payments come through your website? Let's start with the aspect of booking. Do you use any booking systems for people to make appointments with you, or?
Not through my website, but I have a wonderful virtual assistant for that kind of thing. Yes, her name is Lauren. Hi, Lauren. You're amazing. And so what I do is the emails, I do have a contact form. The emails go through to her, and so that she can help me set up discovery sessions and also Zoom meetings and things like that. So if you're at a point where you can afford to have a VA, and they're not overly expensive for the amazing amount of stuff that they can do for you, and it just really helps to sort of separate the little bit of admin time, then you can actually concentrate a bit more on being in the business or working on the business. So that's
Yeah, great advice. So let's go to your socials, and then we'll kind of come back to finance, I think. So, cool. Oh, well, I know you use MyOb, don't you? So that kind of probably is your vehicle there. And yes. So let's talk about your social media. What channels do you use? What did you think were the most valuable to your business? And why did you pick them? And maybe let's go into how often you use them to market and create awareness. Yeah.
Instagram is the biggest one for me. It is my main social channel that I use, purely because it's the nicest from a portfolio perspective of showing work and doing reels. And so I do get contacts come through Instagram, and it's just another place to have a portfolio. It also is a really good connecting to my website, so I can use like the swipe up link if I do some articles on the website. That's one thing I forgot to mention. I have a blog on the website, so which is really good for your Google ranking, continuous content going up. So if you can have time, find the time to do a blog, it's always a good thing. But it means that I can link Instagram to that as well. So that's the main social that I use. I also use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is from a contacts perspective, people in the industry that I want to keep in contact with or connect to, other designers, and that's where it's more text and more lengthy information based about a particular subject, whereas Instagram is where I show all the prettiness. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and both of them are creating backlinks to your site, right?
That's right.
So everything is creating, some SEO gains, or as we like to call it, Google gains.
Yes.
So that's a really great option. Now, your blog, do you publish that? How often do you do a blog?
Once a month. I try to do it once a month. And the later times, because it's been so busy, might have been a little bit longer than once a month. But it's really nice to be able to connect with people in the industry. I've just got an article from a food technologist who I do work with, and so I'm going to pop that up in the next week or so, just about the do's and don'ts of engaging and starting a new product. So the thing I love about it is I actually get to learn a lot more as well when I do blog articles. You get to sort of, you're always learning, right? So it's really neat to sort of be able, I wanted it to be a place where people could just go and get some really interesting information, or I could point somebody to it that asked a question.
Yeah, cool. So you write the blogs yourself, or do
Yes.
you people submit? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so do you sometimes interview some people? It sounds like you talk to some folks in your industry and really get their input in
I
some of
talk to a lot of people because I like talking. Yeah, look, because specifically with FMCG, there are a lot of cogs in a really big wheel, right? So there's food technologists, there's social media, there's packaging, there's printing, there's getting it signed off, then there's retailers, and so there's a lot of things outside of my own craft that I've had to learn, and people that I've had that I talk to become a bit of a one-stop shop. So most of the time it's via email, or I would really like to do a podcast about FMCG at some point. So that's definitely in the works. So I can just sit there and just marvel and listen to people on how awesome they are in their industry. So that's definitely something that I would like to go explore in the future. Yeah.
Highly recommend it. Hey, we've got some podcasts on how to do a podcast. We did a podcast on how to do a podcast.
Yes.
So you can check that out. We've also had some folks come on and talk to us about how to get started with a podcast. So if you're sitting out there and listening to Laura and saying, you know what, I want to do a podcast, go on to the Digital Boost website and check out some of our Q&As that we've done on podcasts, because we've talked about equipment that you could use, what kind of things you need to get set up, what platforms you can push your podcast out onto, all of that kind of stuff, and how to structure an interview. So, and we're always here to help. Of course, Digital Boost has its own podcast on our app, Digital Boost Live. And that's been a journey for our team as well. I think that if you've ever checked out somebody's podcast, or a lot of them from the beginning, you listen to the first episode and then you go to the last episode, there's a lot of improvement that happens, because it is a bit of a learning curve as you go. But there's no reason. And in saying that, you don't need to be perfect to get started. And I think that's one of so you got to get out there, Laura. You get that.
I will.
Going.
All right. Yes.
Okay. That'd be great to add to your website as audio files for folks that prefer that. And WordPress has that capability, which is really cool.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So we're talking about that. We're talking about social media. When you're doing do you kind of let yourself post when you want to, or do you schedule your social media posts in advance and leave room for some additional posting? How do you do that?
Most of it's mostly organically, but I have a set calendar of when I actually sit down to do some posting. So I've got my time organized in a nice wee spreadsheet that sort of says, okay, on Monday morning it's business time for an hour, and then it's posted. Then I do a post, and then I've got a block set out for meetings, and then a block that's purely for design time, and it works through the week. That's in a Google sheet that I share, and then also share with my VA and my team, so that they know when I'm available and when I'm not. And that's that one really good thing is having those online resources like Google Sheets and I've forgotten the other one's name now. I don't know why. Google Docs. Docs. How could I forget that? So I do use those a bit to share information with briefs with my team, with my design team, and Google Sheets for anything like tracking the brands. So when I do brand projects, they're usually done on a fixed cost. So if I get a new client, then I say to Lauren, I said, hey, can we put these people into the brand tracking spreadsheet? And then all of it, then her and I can see it, and then I can go, okay, that payment's done, that payment's done. All right, now let's, okay, this month we need to invoice this one. So it's a really good way for everybody to see what they need to see.
Yeah, and you can really limit who sees those sheets, which is quite nice as well. So you've got that ability to have permissions and what people can change. And I actually really loved, I want to come back to that aspect that you talked about, blocking out your time. And I think that especially in creative fields where we know it takes a moment to step into that creative space, it's a really great piece of advice, or technique that you use, where you block out creative times, Yeah, so that's a really good tip for anybody out there just feeling very overwhelmed with, I want to create, but then I'm doing this invoice and now I'm talking to my assistant, having clear boundaries about what times of the day, as much as possible. I mean, we always have emergencies, don't we?
Yeah.
Having clear timelines throughout the day that you're doing specific tasks will allow you to really concentrate on what you're doing. And Google Calendar now has an option you can pick. So if you were to book, you can book an event, you can like book a task, but you can actually book focus time now. It's one of
Yes, I've seen that. It looks really good. And I think eventually with calendars, with having your time blocking, it can take quite a while to actually figure out what works for you. And this is one thing that my business coach had told me. He said, if you start with a calendar, just get it going. And then, in a year's time, it might look totally different from when you started. And when you feel like you're really in a groove, that's when you can actually input it into your Google Calendar so that, you can set reminders, or you can just open it up in the morning and you can look at it and go, okay, this is my day today. And then you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of small businesses, that is a hard thing because you don't have like you don't have a boss to say, you need to be here at 9, we've got a meeting at 10. Like you set those own parameters. And for certain folks in that, especially I think in the creative space, creating structure is really important in order to
we're not structural people. Creative, we are flow people, and so it's quite a skill to master that. Working in big companies, I learned a lot about creating structure and flow and that, but also you do, it's nice to come and sit down here in the morning and not go, what am I going to do today? I still write a paper list because I'm a list maker and I enjoy ticking things off. But also just sitting down and going, cool. If somebody asks me if they want to book a meeting, I know when I can say yes and when I can say no. And it's also about learning to say no as well in those times. So because you've got a whole week of times you've set out to make meetings, use those times and use the other times to concentrate on the work. Yeah.
Great advice. This whole talk is packed with great advice. And I want to go back to the thing that you said very briefly, where you said, my coach. Yes. So and this is possibly the second week in a row, where the person that we've featured here for Success Stories has mentioned a business coach. So you have a business coach. How long have you had one for? And who got you inspired to contact one? How did that come up?
Well, I had been in a Facebook business group for a little while and had just been inspired by those people, and I wanted to grow the business. I sort of felt like it was just me at the time, and there was becoming more and more work that was, coming in the door. And I was like, I don't really know how to manage this because it's always just been me. How do I create the systems to grow and take it somewhere where I don't actually, and build the business confidence? That was a really big thing for me. Was I'm good at design and I know a bit about business, but I don't really know what's beyond the next peak as such, and how do I get up there? So for me, it was like I wanted to choose somebody that I guess understood where I was coming from, and that's where I met Jung, who was my business coach. He's wonderful, and I've been working with him for about 8 months now. And in that time, I've gone from just me to having 3 part-time contract designers working, and I feel way more confident. I understand the finances of business. I understand systems, and I put a lot of effort into actually, and all that stuff has helped me to grow in business and confidence in myself. It's just having somebody else to talk to about the business side of things and just talk through things has been really good. They're like a therapist for your business, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we love Jung. Shout out to Jung. Shout out to you. You've done well. Look at how much you've helped Laura accomplish in 8 months. Yeah. Obviously you do the work, but it's bouncing ideas off of somebody that knows what they're talking about, or having accountability, or having a little bit of advice.
Yes.
is so valuable
Yeah.
when you're flying solo, and it's something that maybe there's areas you're great at, like you said, and maybe there's areas that you're not so great at. And scaling is one of the scariest parts of a
Oh,
business.
it is very scary because you start out with the idea and it's just you and you're like, cool, I can kind of see, I sort of know what the end game is that I want, but the bit in the middle is just huge, right? It's like standing down the bottom of Everest. You can see the top, but you've got a lot of climbing to do, and climbing by yourself is really hard, and obviously to be honest, completely impossible to get to the top just by yourself. So having a business coach, having a really good team, but also having things like Digital Boost is really cool, because you can connect with people that you probably never thought you could. So having the online resources are great. And my business coach, we talk over Zoom. So, more digital time.
More digital time.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's, I think they're the business coaches, and there's actually, there's funding out there for them, or
Really? Is there? Where would you go to get that? Do you know?
I know that was through Activate. Tamaki Makoto was there.
Yeah.
That's not there anymore, but that's what I used to
There
get
was, yeah, you're
yeah.
right. You're right, Laura. There was Activate Tamaki Makoto, but have a look at contact your local chamber or contact your local council and just see what's going on, because there was some larger Aotearoa ones, and not just Auckland based, that I had heard about. I didn't log in my memory what they were, but you can find out. So have a look, because there's lots of grants for small businesses. Government recognizes the importance of small business and is trying to help us to all get ourselves on our feet.
And there's a ton of really good Facebook groups as well, with people, that you can actually join. There's a couple, there's a woman in business one that I'm in, a New Zealand business owners, and obviously Digital Boost as well. So there's heaps of free advice that you can get out there as well. And there's lots of other people who are in the same position as you, say that you're starting out or you're a medium-sized business, that you can talk to people that have gone there before you, that you can probably share advice and have a good old game of tennis of advice going backwards and forwards. So it's great. Yeah.
Actually, speaking of that, Dean's actually tuned in on Facebook, and he's just written, yes, Google Calendar also has a don't disturb, so you can take time away, which is good for mental health. That's absolutely right.
I think I might just turn that on permanently all weekend, actually.
Yeah, look, it's really important to set boundaries, isn't it? Depending on your business, to block out time for regenerating what we've got, it's really hard to turn off when you own your own business.
It is.
Sure. Yeah. And you can experience burnout, and it's really important to reach out and ask for help if you need it, from folks that you can trust, because you're not in it alone. I don't know about MYOB or MYOB about what they have, but I know that Xero as a platform, so they're also a financial kind of platform that you can do invoicing and all of that kind of stuff with it. They offer if you're a member there, you get free mental health for you and your family services, because they recognize how hard it is for small businesses to function, and sometimes you need a bit of support. So that's just
like the first couple of years in business are really hard. Particularly with the clients that I work with, most of them aren't making money for at least 8 months, because that's generally how long it takes. And thanks to COVID, take a little bit longer to actually set up a food business, because of packaging requirements, then actually setting up, being online, getting the actual production of their goods and that, and a lot of supply issues and getting things in from the country, because unfortunately in New Zealand we don't have all of the resources that other countries have to setting up food businesses, but we have a lot of good resources here. We do, and where possible, I always say to people to buy local. So it's a hard slog the first couple of years. And you're right, burnout is a thing. And I've experienced that in my time as well, being a mum and to a 2-year-old. So they're crazy.
Yeah.
But and then so learning to when to have the business hat on and then when to have the mum hat on. So I've set clear boundaries with myself, and my phone goes on to, I've turned my phone onto silent after 7:30 p.m. And on the weekends, I check my email. I can check my email twice, but that's all. So, and it's important to sort of have really clear roles when you are a parent, or and just when you need to take time for yourself as well. Because if you're not well, you can't run the business. So it's important to recognize that. It's hard to recognize because you get really excited when it's growing, and you want to take on all this amazing work, and then you realize, actually, I need to look after myself a bit as well.
Oh my gosh, preach. This is, you're full of what you're just like advice. I don't know what we're going to talk about at the end as far as advice, but I'm sure you've got more in your belt,
Probably.
that you're stacking up. But so we're pretty much there. I just wanted to ask you if there was, so Trello, obviously you can't live without,
Yes.
to be honest. I am also a Trello fanatic. I have many boards for the different jobs that I do, and I probably don't use it as well as we had a guest from Simpler Workflows, and she's like a Trello expert, and they're
cool.
Yeah. And so she knows all the cool tricks, and I don't, and I know I underutilize it, but it works for me, And so you can take it next level, or you can use it really basic. I'm on the free version, and it just helps me to have a place where I can store everything in one place, because I think one of the beautiful thing about all these cloud platforms, these SaaS platforms, is that it's allowed us to not have stacks of paper everywhere, and things in different files on your desktop. And it's like, you can just actually put places in its links, and you can just click through. And for a mind like mine, which is not epically organized, I find that tool so useful. So here, my question was, the long short of it, Laura, the question was, what is there any other tool that you use that you couldn't live without? Now, whether that's for your own personal use or use with your clients, besides Zoom and Trello, is there anything else that you couldn't live without in your business?
There is. There's a couple, actually. Obviously, the biggest ones are the tools that I use to actually do the design work, and that's the Adobe suite. So that's Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Lightroom, PDF, all of those tools, which actually are industry standard for creating packaging and design work. So they're a subscription-based thing, and they're all online, and I could have them on a couple of computers at once. And that's where the magic happens. So those tools are obviously key. The other one that I have is, which I've only just started using this year, is Harvest.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
Yes, so Harvest is a time tracking and financial tool that I use. So I can put all of my projects into there. Like I say, there's a new client that comes in, put in the project, I can put in an hourly rate. Then I can click play on my desktop, and it counts the time for me while I'm working on that specific project. And then it tallies it all up in a report that I can check every day. I've got all my freelancers on that. And the really awesome thing, bringing it back to Trello, is that it integrates into Trello. So that's an add-on app that you can use. So I create a job in Trello for one of my freelancers. They can click the Harvest button and click the job that they are assigned to. It presses play. They don't have to think about it until they finish the job. They press stop, and then it calculates all of their time, their hourly rate, plus what I charge out to the client, and puts it all into this amazing screen on the platform that I can keep track of. So I can track the hours that my team have worked on. I can then create invoices out of that, which I can then put into MyOb and then charge the client. Harvest has been around for a while. There are a lot of time tracking tools you can use, but as far as I know, Harvest for me has been the best.
Now, I've got a question for you as a person that has multiple jobs, multiple, not jobs, but you know what I mean? Like contracts going at the same time.
Yeah.
Say you have multiple contracts going at the same time, and you're in your email, like you're working on a project, and then and you're going into your email, and then you see an urgent email from somebody else, and then but that's a different contract. Are you just really disciplined about going, I'm not going to answer that now, I'm going to go back and stay with what I'm on? Because one of the hard things, I guess, about time tracking is that you're writing down how much time you're doing a task, but because everything is all integrated in your systems, it's like sometimes you can find yourself popping around. Is there a way that you stopped yourself from doing that so you can really keep track?
I keep folders. When I have clients, I have ongoing clients as well, clients that I do work for each week. Their emails are separated into lists so that I've got one for Red Shoots, which is one of my clients. And then so any email that comes through from them, I can see that. But yes, I've become very good at compartmentalizing and not actually answering emails. That's on my Google Sheet calendar as well. So I have time set out where I answer emails or I answer phone calls. And look, and there are days where it all kind of turns to poo a little bit, and you know that there are urgent phone calls and things that you have to make. But for the most part, I will leave an email sitting in my inbox until I'm finished the design task. And that's a really good thing if you are a creative, because if you're in the zone, if you stop, you can kind of lose your train of thought. So it's better to just work on a particular design for an hour or an hour and a half, and then stop and go, okay, cool, I need to ruminate on that for a little bit. And now I'll go and answer my emails.
Yeah, great advice. Because that is, we can be so scattered these days with our phone going off and the computers going off, and having strict boundaries when you're billing for your time is super important, just to be fair to the client and to make sure that you're able to have full attention in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Great advice there. So just to finish off, Laura, I just wanted to ask you if you had a piece of advice or something that you just want to leave us with that inspires you. We'd love to hear it.
Use all of the no's that you get from people to just build it up to a yes, because I've spent years of people not understanding my disability and going, oh, how can you do this? And people that I've missed out on jobs where I've come down to the last two and they've chosen the other person. And I don't feel bad about that, because it's literally just a misunderstanding from the employer's side of things. But just, if it's really hard now, it's not going to be hard forever. You will get to a point where you will look back and go, I can't believe I got through all that. So just keep going. Like it takes time. It's like growing a business is like growing a baby or a human. Your business is going to have tantrums, and you're going to have moments where you wonder why you're doing this to yourself. But there's plenty of those. But at the same time, it is the most wonderful, most beautiful journey, and it is so sweet when you reach a milestone and you can look down and go, yeah, cool, I love what I do.
Yes. Oh, that's such great advice. I think that what you've said also that underpins is just adversity builds strength and resiliency. And if you don't allow the adversity to overcome you, you will become stronger and more resilient, and you can achieve it. It's totally. Like just keep chipping it away. It just dawned on me, or just came to my mind. There's this saying, I don't know if it's called a saying or whatever it is, but if it takes 100 pumps to get water out of the well, and you only pump 80 times or 97 times, you don't get the water, but you still did a whole lot of work. So continuing to make it to that 100 so that you can get the water, is those last pumps could be the hardest part of the whole journey. But the water is delicious.
It is.
So true. Oh, this has been such a joy for me. And I know for our users, our Digital Boost users, and we are following your journey. We love to hear what you're doing. I love your brand and your story.
Thank
And
you
I'm
so
just
much.
feel so privileged to have got to have this chat with you. So thank you, Laura.
Thank you. That's been wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us here today. Next week is the start of Tech Week, and we also have Digital Accessibility Day next week on the 19th. So it's a massive week for Digital Boost, of course, and we hope that you'll join us for some really great sessions that we have along, and some, just a whole bunch of good content coming your way. So stay with us. Thanks, Laura. Have a wonderful day. I hope it looks like it's sunny where you are, so enjoy it.
It is. I'm going to try and get a little bit of sun at the end of the day today. But also, thank you for creating Digital Boost. I've been using it a lot, and I'm really grateful that we're very lucky to have the resource. So thank you.
Yes, I like, my props go out to the ministry who have supported this initiative, recognizing that small businesses do underpin our economy here in Aotearoa, and that putting some funding towards helping us to succeed is super important. And I wouldn't be here without that. And so my thank you to ministry as well, and to the Mind Lab and all the innovative private people from the private tech sector that came together to create this program so that the government could supply small businesses with what they were needing. So it's a big collaboration. Hey, so
it is awesome. Cool.
Yeah. All right. What a joy. Have a wonderful day, Laura.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, then. See you. Bye.